The fall at Heart Mountain. A few summers ago, my old hiking buddy Greg and I decided to reunite for a weekend hike out at Heart Mountain in Alberta. It had been years since our last real excursion together. Life, work, kids, and aging knees had slowed us both down more than we liked to admit. But Heart Mountain was calling, and we figured we'd give it a shot. We weren't planning to do anything too intense. Just a casual revisit of the Heart Mountain Horseshoe loop, maybe push ourselves a bit if the old joints allowed it. The weather was perfect that morning. Clear skies, crisp mountain air, and that peaceful silence that only the backcountry can give you. We parked near the trailhead, strapped on our gear, and set off, feeling like we were 20 years younger than we really were. But it didn't take long to realize just how out of shape we'd gotten. By the time we reached the halfway mark, we were winded, sore, and frankly, a little embarrassed. Gone were the days we could scramble up rock faces like mountain goats. Still, the view was worth it. As we caught our breath near a ridge, we passed a young couple climbing with the kind of energy and confidence we used to have. They were smiling, shouting playful challenges to each other as they scaled parts of the rock wall that Greg and I wouldn't dare touch now. I remember the woman laughing as she reached up for a ledge, calling out, "Bet you can't beat me to the top." The guy just grinned and pushed after her. They seemed fearless, and honestly, it made me feel a strange mix of admiration and longing. We exchanged polite nods as we passed, and then continued along our slower, safer route. A while later, we stopped near a bend with a beautiful overlook for lunch. We had sandwiches, a couple of donuts, and lukewarm coffee from our thermoses. The sun filtered through the trees, casting flickering shadows across the rocky path. Everything felt peaceful, like we were finally reconnecting, not just with the outdoors, but with each other. When we finished eating, we decided to start making our way back before the sun dipped too low. The descent was easier on the knees, but required caution. The gravel could be slick, and neither of us wanted to be the guy who broke his ankle on a nostalgic hike. Then I saw it. At first, it was just a flash of red in the water, down in the creek bed. A shoe, I thought. A climbing shoe, to be exact. Black and red, wedged between a cluster of rocks. Someone must have lost it. I picked it up, chuckling to myself. "Hey, Greg," I called out. "Someone's having a bad day." But Greg didn't laugh. He was standing frozen, pale as death, his eyes fixed on something further downstream. I followed his gaze and had to climb a few steps over the rocks to see what he was seeing. There they were. Two bodies, lying in the shallows of the creek, faces turned upward, eyes closed, ropes still attached to harnesses, arms bent at unnatural angles, legs twisted like broken marionettes. The couple. It was them, the same two we'd passed just hours ago. The girl in the blue windbreaker, the guy with the scruffy beard and yellow helmet. They were dead. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. I tried to make sense of it. Did we hear a scream? A fall? Anything? But no, nothing. Just the quiet rustling of wind through pines and the slow, mocking trickle of water around their bodies. My brain couldn't accept it. How could something like this happen so close to us without a single sign? "They must have fallen while we were eating," Greg finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. That made my stomach churn. While we sat there, joking over peanut butter sandwiches and donuts, not 200 meters away, two people were plunging to their deaths. Why didn't they scream? That thought haunted me more than anything. Wouldn't I have screamed? Wouldn't you? Or was it over so fast they didn't have time to react? Or maybe they did scream, and the mountain just swallowed the sound whole. We stood there in silence for a long time before we noticed a young family hiking up the trail behind us. A dad, a mom, two small kids giggling as they marched with their tiny hiking sticks. I rushed toward them, trying not to look as shaken as I felt. The mom looked confused. The little girl pointed and asked, "Who's that man, Mommy?" I gave the dad a quick look and gestured him over, murmuring, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He came closer, concern dawning in his eyes. I didn't want to scare the kids. I didn't want to say the word dead in front of their bright, innocent faces. So I just told him there'd been an accident, and we needed to keep the trail clear until we could notify the rangers. To his credit, he understood immediately. He turned back and calmly told his family that they were going to take a different path down and would stop by the ranger station on their way. "Let me handle this," he said. Greg and I stayed with the bodies, not really talking, just standing like silent sentries. We didn't touch anything. We didn't dare. My phone had no reception up there, and Greg's wasn't faring much better. But within 10 or 15 minutes, we heard the faint buzz of an ATV in the distance. The ranger who arrived looked young, maybe in his 20s, but he carried himself with steady calm. He had a radio powerful enough to reach down into town, and after checking the scene, he waved us over and thanked us. "You're free to go. You did the right thing," he said. As we hiked back down the rest of the trail, I couldn't stop thinking. What if we'd left lunch a few minutes earlier? What if we'd taken a different path? Could we have stopped them, helped them, warned them? Greg shook his head when I said that out loud. "Don't go there," he told me. "That way lies madness." And he was right. But I still do. Some nights, I dream about that couple. I see them laughing again, scaling the cliff face like they're invincible. Then the dream skips ahead. Suddenly they're falling. Silent, graceful, like leaves caught in a breeze. And I'm watching, powerless, with a donut in my hand. We didn't hike for almost 2 years after that. Every time we thought about going back, something in us just said, no. Too many ghosts on that mountain. We finally went out again last fall. Different trail, different province. But I still carry that day with me. Quiet as a shadow, heavy as a rope. Because sometimes the mountain doesn't roar. Sometimes it just takes and leaves the silence behind. What he saw in the cave. Some places change you. Some places leave you with memories, others with scars. And then there are places like Lechuguilla Cave, buried deep beneath New Mexico's desert, that take a piece of your soul and leave you wondering if you'll ever get it back. It was the summer of 2011. I was in my late 20s, a research fellow at the University of New Mexico's Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. For someone like me, a cave-obsessed geology nerd with a taste for fieldwork, being chosen to lead a research expedition into Lechuguilla was like getting invited to walk on Mars. For the uninitiated, Lechuguilla isn't your average tourist cave. It's one of the deepest and most complex cave systems in North America, over 150 miles of mapped tunnels winding beneath Carlsbad Caverns. Access is restricted to scientists with years of training, and even then, only after jumping through months of bureaucratic hoops. When I was approved, I felt like I'd earned a golden ticket to the underworld. Our team was small. Me, the youngest and most excited. Nestor, my mentor, and an old-school caving veteran. 2 researchers from LSU and UT Austin, both mid-30s, highly competent, and as passionate about subterranean geology as the rest of us. We camped just outside the cave entrance, our tents ringed with gear, water canisters, equipment crates, and research logbooks. For the first 3 days, everything went perfectly. We mapped mineral veins, collected samples, and recorded rare gypsum formations. It was demanding work, but we were in our element, sore muscles and all. Then came day 4. That morning, the LSU researcher, let's call him Grant, mentioned he wanted to head back into one of the side tunnels we had only partially explored the day before. He said he had a hunch about some unusual microbial deposits in the deeper chambers. We were all exhausted. The tunnels were narrow and winding, the kind that make your helmet scrape the ceiling and your breath fog your visor. Solo caving was against protocol. Hell, it was suicidal. But Grant was experienced, and we trusted him. "I'll be back in 2 hours tops," he said, slinging a small pack over his shoulder. Just a quick look. Nestor and I stayed at camp cataloging samples while the UT Austin guy, James, napped in his tent. 2 hours passed, then 3. By hour 4, I was lacing up my boots to go find him. But just as I stepped toward the cave entrance, Grant emerged, covered in dust, pale as a ghost, and shaking. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, just deeper than I expected. But I found something." "What kind of something?" He hesitated. His eyes darted to Nestor, then to me. "You have to see it," he said, voice low. "I can't describe it. Just tomorrow. I'll take you there." I pressed him for more. Was it a new passage? A fossil? Evidence of microbial life? He just shook his head. That night at camp, Grant was quiet. He picked at his food. He kept glancing toward the cave entrance, like something might crawl out of it. I figured he was hiding a discovery, something that would earn him a paper, maybe even a grant. But it wasn't just secrecy in his eyes. It was fear. Then, around midnight, I was woken by a sound I will never forget. It started as low murmuring, like someone whispering in a foreign language. Then the murmur turned to frantic arguing. Shouts, a thud, a gasp. I bolted upright in my tent. "Something's wrong," I said, shaking Nestor awake. We rushed to the tent that James and Grant were sharing. The flap was zipped shut, but we could hear a struggle inside. Gasping, something like choking. Nestor unzipped it and I saw it. Grant was strangling James, knees pinning him down, both hands around his throat, face twisted into a rage I didn't know he was capable of. "Jesus, get off him!" It took both Nestor and me to tear him away. When we did, James wasn't moving. His face was blue, his eyes glassy. Grant thrashed like a man possessed. He kicked, he bit, he screamed. Not words, just guttural, animal sounds. His fingernails raked my face. I felt cartilage snap in my nose. Blood streamed into my mouth. Nestor managed to shove him away, but instead of calming down, Grant turned and ran into the cave. No shoes, no helmet, no pack, just vanished into the darkness like a rabid animal. We tried to follow, yelled after him, but the cave swallowed him whole. There are dozens of passages, hundreds of turns. He could have gone anywhere. We turned back. James still wasn't moving. I checked his pulse. It was faint, shallow. But there. Nestor radioed for help, but it took hours to get a rescue team that deep. By the time we got James out, it was too late. He survived, technically, but he suffered massive oxygen loss. Last I heard, he couldn't speak, couldn't walk. Brain damage. Permanent. As for Grant, he was never found. Not his body, not his gear, nothing. The authorities searched for weeks, but they called it off eventually. Too dangerous, too deep. They said he must have gotten lost and died in the dark. But I've been down there. I know that cave. And I'm not so sure, because something happened to him. Something inside that cave broke him, ripped out whatever part of him was human. You could see it in his face that night. That wasn't a man attacking his colleague. That was something else. The most disturbing part. Before he attacked James, before he snapped, he told us he'd seen something. Something that couldn't be described. Something we had to see to believe. I've tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a hallucination. Maybe he had a psychotic break. But we were all medically cleared before the trip. Grant passed every test. He was fit, sane, and level-headed. Until he wasn't. And I can't shake the thought that whatever he saw is still down there. I left fieldwork after that. Couldn't step foot in another cave. Couldn't handle the idea that somewhere in the darkness, something was watching. I sometimes wonder, what if we had gone with him that day? Would we have seen it too? Would we have gone mad? Or worse? All I know is, there are places humans aren't meant to go. And Lechugila, in its deepest chambers, might just be one of them.